Welcome back to Untangled Minds, making sense of the mess one thread at a time. Life with ADHD and autism and other neurodivergent experiences can feel tangled, chaotic, and overwhelming. I'm Deanna, a therapist, writer, mom, and intuitive, and I know firsthand what it's like to hold both the struggle and the beauty of having one of these brains. In this podcast, we'll explore the intersections of neurodivergence, attachment, relationships, parenting, and healing through story, strategy, and soulful connection. And soulful conversation. We'll untangle shame, celebrate strengths, and create space for authenticity. If you've ever felt too much, not enough, or simply different, this is your place to breathe, laugh, and belong. Welcome back to episode, I don't even know. I think we're on episode 4. This episode was going to go right into anxious attachment, but I decided that we needed to have a crash course on the central nervous system. And the reason I want to give you this crash course on the central nervous system and what it is and how it impacts your body and your emotions is because attachment in and of itself is basically what we refer to when we're talking about fight or flight response. And, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, like those are all nervous system responses to trauma or other situations. Attachment and attachment triggers and ruptures are just another version of that, another version of a response from our central nervous system. So I figured we need to talk about what that is, because if I just throw a bunch of information at you and you don't understand why or how what's happening is happening, how are you going to apply that information to yourself, right? Well, if your heart has ever raced while you're waiting on the 3-dot typing bubble, or your stomach dropped before you even knew the why, that's not your imagination. That's your nervous system running the show. Basically, you have like this lifelong relationship with your central nervous system, and it's the drama queen, and you're just along for the ride. So before we can understand how we show up under stress or in relationships, we need to talk about the system behind the curtain. This is your nervous system. It is the backstage crew that's running every single thought, feeling, and reaction that goes through your mind, consciously or not. It also impacts your body and your physical sensations. We call those somatic symptoms. Speaking of somatic symptoms, I'm sorry if there's a little gap there. I had to pause because I was having some anxiety symptoms. I don't know why. I haven't figured that out yet, but maybe because of the text message I got, whatever. So, back to the central nervous system, why it's important and what it does do. So, the central nervous system is, like I said, it's the crew that runs every thought, feeling, or reaction that comes across your mind, consciously or unconsciously. The nervous system has several moving, living, breathing parts. You have a lot of different things, but the main ones that we talk about when we're talking about therapy and talking about our bodies is the central nervous system. So this is your brain and your spinal cord. This is the messenger, the processor, the organizer. Inside of your central nervous system, you have several like mini nervous systems. The primary ones that we work with are the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system. And then we also have the different areas of our brain which control different areas of our life. In the limbic system, we have the amygdala, which is what is constantly scanning our environment for fear and threats. We have the hippocampus, where memory, learning, and context are gathered. And then we have the hypothalamus, which controls your hunger, hormones, stress, things like that. Cortisol, those different sensations. We have the spinal cord, which is like, if you think about it, it's like the freeway from your brain to your body. And then there's several like supporting different cells and neurons and things like that. Also part of the brain, you have the the cerebrum, which is where you do your conscious thinking, planning, memories, emotions, and voluntary movements. And then there's the evidently I can't talk today. The cerebellum, which is what is those involuntary things like balance, posture, fine motor skills. And then the very, very bottom, your brainstem, is your breathing, your heartbeat, your survival basics. So like your brain stem, or we often call it your baby brain, is where you get stuck when you're in a triggered episode. Instead of using your big brain, as we call it, which would be the cerebrum and the cerebellum, you get stuck in your brainstem, your amygdala, and you cannot make logical, conscious decisions when you're in that state. So, your autonomic nervous system. This is comprised of two main players that run without conscious control. Okay? So that means, regardless of what you're consciously thinking, these two systems will do their job. So there's the sympathetic nervous system. This is what I like to lovingly call the gas pedal. So this is the system in our brain that activates the fight or flight response. It's where the adrenal glands live, which releases adrenaline and cortisol. This part of your system increases your heart rate, increases your blood pressure, gives you the oomph you need in order to be able to like save yourself, right? It can do things like divert blood flow from muscles to other things, or from other things to muscles so that you can be prepared to react. It suppresses digestion, reproduction, and long-term healing. Often symptoms that you experience when your sympathetic nervous system is activated include a racing heart, clenching your jaw, or grinding your teeth, shallow, short breathing, sweaty palms, tunnel vision, all of those like big red flags of, oh no, something's going wrong. Then there's the parasympathetic nervous system. This is what I lovingly call the brake pedal. This is the part of your brain that activates the rest and digest response. It slows your heart rate and lowers your blood pressure, stimulates digestion, immune function, repair, and reproduction. When you're in a parasympathetic nervous system response, you often are breathing slower. Maybe you're doing, that relaxed belly breathing. Your heart rate is even and slow, and your brain doesn't feel cloudy. So the brake pedal here slows you down, restores your balance, tells your body, I am safe. Whereas the gas pedal is that instant speed and energy, and it's not sustainable. However, when you're living in a PTSD response, or if you're in a triggered response through your trauma or your attachment ruptures, you're living in that sympathetic nervous system on that gas pedal, and that's what causes chronic stress and chronic fatigue and things like that. So then there's a couple other really important factors or players I want to talk to you about. The next one is going to be the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your body. It runs from your brainstem to your face, down your throat, to your heart, to your lungs, and into your gut. It's the main nerve for the parasympathetic nervous system, which means it's the main nerve that controls your ability to calm down. This carries signals both ways, from your brain to your body and your body to your brain. So it's a two-way nerve. Like it's like another highway, but it's a very specific nerve. And the reason that this specific nerve is important is because this is the nerve that helps to regulate your heart rate, your digestion, your breathing, and creates a sense of calm. This nerve is important because it is the nerve that specifically correlates to the I'm safe now feeling that you get when you're starting to calm down. And it's important to know about and important to understand because you can stimulate the vagus nerve by doing specific actions. And that stimulation of the vagus nerve can bring your body from a sympathetic nervous system response into a parasympathetic nervous system response. And so we'll talk more about that probably on a different episode, but that is polyvagal theory. All of this information I'm giving you is widely available on the internet. Just go on Google and search nervous system or autonomic regulation. If you want to get into some specifics, you can look up the polyvagal theory by Stephen Porges or the Pocket Guide to Polyvagal Theory. Another really great author and clinician is Deb Dana with The Rhythm of Regulation, talks more about polyvagal theory. And then Dr. Porges has a website all of his own that has a ton of material sourced directly from scientific articles, books, theorists, things like that. So don't just trust me, right? Look up more information about this if you are interested in learning more about it, because it is something that can greatly change your life. So after the vagus nerve, you have your somatic nervous system. So the somatic nervous system is the entire reason why when something happens, you feel anxious, you feel jittery, you feel like your heart is racing or your muscles are tense, that your palms are sweaty. That is all managed by the somatic nervous system. So the thing is, though, the somatic nervous system is a part of our central nervous system, and it is usually consisting of voluntary responses. So that means walking, reaching, speaking, pain, temperature, but it is the highway to feeling the symptoms attached from your autonomic nervous system. So say your sympathetic nervous system kicks up and you start to have a stress response. Instantly, your jaw becomes tight, you start breathing shallow, your muscles tense up, and your heart starts to race. So if your somatic nervous system did not exist, these things would just happen with no knowledge to you. However, because of your somatic nervous system, when you clench your jaw starts to hurt. When your muscles get tense, your muscles hurt. When you're feeling anxious, you might feel the thump of your heart racing, right? These are all your somatic nervous system. So when your sympathetic nervous system is activated and turns on, somatically, you might feel like a racing, pounding heart or a skipping beats. Your breathing might be fast, shallow, and stuck in your chest. Your muscles might be tense, might have tight shoulders, clenched fists. Your skin might be sweaty or flushed. Your mind might be racing or experiencing tunnel vision. And if you are experiencing those feelings, that's your body screaming, it feels like I need to do something right now. I am unsafe. Okay? You're in fight or flight mode. When your parasympathetic nervous system takes over, the brake pedal, you might feel like your heartbeat is slowing down or steady. You might be engaging or feeling deep belly breathing and longer exhales. Your muscles might begin to soften or loosen up. Your stomach might start to rumble or you might feel hungry. Your mind may feel more clear, calm, and spacious. And then, when you're feeling like this feels like rest, safety, and connection. And it's your body telling you, I'm safe now. So the vagus nerve falls into play because when you're in a sympathetic response, you want to get to a parasympathetic response, and you do that by stimulating your vagus nerve. When your vagus nerve is involved, your face might feel relaxed. You might find it's easier to make eye contact. Your voice often gets softer, warmer, and less strained, less rushed, less pushy. Your heart may feel steadier and your chest more open. You might feel the anxiousness of the butterflies or a calm belly. When we do things like humming, singing, breathing, or safe touch, our body instantly starts stimulating the vagus nerve, which calms us down. So here's the whole loop. Ready? A trigger happens, and your central nervous system, specifically your amygdala, senses danger. Whether it's there or not, it doesn't matter. Your body's now entered a triggered state. Your autonomic nervous system slams on the gas pedal, sympathetic nervous system, And immediately your heart starts to race, your breathing shortens, and your muscle tenses. This is your body getting ready to fight and protect itself in a danger zone. Your somatic system reports these things to you. That's how you get that feeling of the heart racing or feeling like you need to bunch up your fists. And you remain in that state until you activate your parasympathetic nervous system through the vagus nerve. Once activated, the vagus nerve sends muscle information and sends signals to the rest of your body that you're no longer in a state of fight and protection, and you can now calm down, which then sends out all of the hormones needed for your body to relax. So anxiety starts building automatically. Your voluntary system takes over, cueing you in on the symptoms, and then you have the opportunity to practice and slow down and stimulate the vagus nerve so that your body can calm down. So why does this even matter? Attachment, while surrounding psychology, it's also biology. Your nervous system learned to dance to these moves when you were a child, before you had control over what your body determined was safe or unsafe. When closeness feels shaky when you're a little kid, that's just not you being too much. That's your central nervous system, your autonomic nervous system, your vagus nerve, somatic system, all doing their survival dance. The choreography they learned before you were old enough to talk. So, what do I want from you? What do I want you to learn from this specific lesson? I want you to understand how your body plays into your mind. And I want you to ask yourself a couple of quick questions so that the next time you're in a triggered response, you have the ability to understand what's happening in your body, all right? What I want you to ask yourself is this. What does anxiety feel like in your body? When you're feeling anxious, what does your heart do? How does your gut feel? How does your chest and your breathing feel? I want you to do a body check when you feel anxious. Do I feel tense? What am I experiencing? And if you need to write it down, write it down. And then once you're more calm, I want you to do that body check again, and I want you to see what's different. And then the other question I want you to ask is, how do you normally try to calm yourself down? Do you think about things? Do you move your body? Do you focus on breathing? What does that look like for you? As we move into attachment theory, there's going to be certain skills or things that you can do to help calm your central nervous system. These are going to vary for everybody. Everybody will have a different response, but it's important for you to understand the biology behind the psychology, because it doesn't do us any good to understand why something is happening to us if we don't understand how we're going to stop it from happening. So now that you know the stage that your nervous system is performing on, next time we're going to zoom in on an anxious attachment, the overgivers of the world. That way you can see how biology plays out in relationships and with the people that you care about the most. I would say I'm pretty proud of this. We might have an episode that lasts less than 20 minutes, so that's impressive. Maybe it is a mini episode. With that being said, don't forget, your goal is always unmask, untangle, and shine your weird into the world like a beacon. Until next time, stay weird, friends.